would approve a trade to. No trade ever came to pass, and Wilson at least appears happier now with the season drawing near. One player who is thrilled to have Russell Wilson back is Tyler Lockett, who recently got paid.
Yeah, I expect Russ to be here for the foreseeable future. Obviously, there was a lot of stuff that went on during the offseason, and I think, in the offseason, a lot of TV shows are off. Nobody really has a lot to talk about, so they try to find things to be able to talk about. I think that Russ definitely wants to be here with us, and so we're not really too concerned or caught up with a lot of stuff that happened. We understand the aspect of business and what everything is like, especially in the NFL.
So, Mina, the Seahawks tapped into their own division by hiring Shane Waldron to be their new offensive coordinator. How can his scheme help Russell Wilson and the Seahawks succeed this year?
First, Tyler, I'd like to say we have a lot to talk about in the offseason. Like today, I would love to talk about how the Seahawks
I feel
offense.
He's speaking directly to me.
I know, straight to my heart. I'd like to talk about how the Seahawks offense, as you said, under Waldron can evolve, because a big part of the reason why Russell Wilson was reportedly unhappy with some of the issues with that offense down the second half of last season. And a lot of those issues had to do with, there were a number of reasons for it, but a fact that as defenses started to play them differently, as Tyler himself has said, playing more too high, the offense didn't evolve in response. And some of that wasn't all on offensive coordinator Brian Schottenheimer. Some of that was on Wilson himself. But to me, the success of this offense this year, the question of whether or not they can sort of return to the form we saw at the beginning of last season, it all depends on whether or not that evolution has happened. Whether the offense can be balanced, and I'm not talking about like a run-pass ratio. I'm talking about an ability to take what the defense is giving you. If the defense is taking away the explosives like they did last year, driving down the field, getting yards after catch, which has been a major problem, I think, in the Seahawks offense for a while, and is obviously something that the Rams do the best in the NFL. Can Waldron bring some of those principles with him to Seattle? More tempo, more creativity, more integration of the run and pass game. If he can do all of those things, then given all the skill players they have, this offense should be lights out.
Yeah, Mina, I think it's the most talented offense that Russell's had since he became a Seahawk. I mean, we know the two receivers, Lockett and Metcalf, are spectacular. I think Eskridge out of Western Michigan is going to be huge for them. I love the addition of Gerald Everett. So, there's a lot of talent on this roster, specifically offensively, skill position-wise. Now, if we go back to last year, I think this offense can be just as explosive as it was for the first 2/3 of the season last year, but not so dependent on Russell Wilson. I mean, this was such an explosive offense because Russell was so good. Russell was as spectacular as any quarterback we had in the league last year. But they asked him to do so much. And I think two things need to stand out. This offense, because I know Shane Waldron, I was with him in 2017, and I know this offensive scheme. They are going to give Russell easy things. I think we did a tape breakdown last year of it. Russell, take the easy stuff. And then to your point, the yards after catch. The easy stuff has to be taken from the quarterback, given to the receiver, and then do something with it, guys. Because the coach will be more apt to call that stuff. So that's the first part. And the second part is this. Can they flip last year? Can they somewhat get their feet down, start a little bit solid or slow, and then really build to the playoffs? Because the last 2 years, their offense has sputtered into the playoffs rather than building into the playoffs. That's the biggest challenge for this offense, is to flip last year, be as explosive as they were for the first 2/3, but not be solely dependent on Russell Wilson.
Yeah, you don't want to live and die by the big play, because when that big play gets taken away, the offense dies. Again, to go back to balance, it's all about having every potential, route, depth of target, the types of weapons you use at your disposal. Mentioned some of the additions that they've made, Gerald Everett from the Rams being another great one. What we didn't talk about, and I think it's worth mentioning here, is the offensive line, because I actually think this offensive line, which they did make a trade for Gabe Jackson, they're in good shape. Dan, you said this is the most talented team. I would actually extend that to the line as well. It's not the best line he's ever played with. That was probably the beginning of Wilson's career, but it's certainly better than those offensive lines in 16, 17, 18. They are good enough. And combined with these skill players, combined with this quarterback, the ceiling is the sky.
Yeah, and I'd even go on top of that and say Chris Carson and his health is a big deal. I'd like to see Russell Wilson back under center a little bit more than he was last year. And I can't underestimate the point of this, that those skill position players, when you say balance, Mina, it's a balance of touches, right? It's about, you don't care how guys get their touches anymore, whether it's a jet sweep, a perimeter screen, ball down the field, slant, stick route. It's just about getting guys touches. And they've got 5 guys that demand them. And it's going to be on Shane Waldron, again, to create those easy things for that offense. Russell to oblige, because we know they're going to be explosive. We know that they've got big playmaking capability. But can they kind of pick you apart to a defense rather than just be, hey, DK, make a special play downfield? Because we were a part of that in Detroit with Calvin. Launch it to Calvin, see if he can make a play. Do the little things, and they become the big things.
Well, I'll tell you what, as you guys have noted, the pieces are all in place for yet another deep run for Seattle. I think a lot of it is simple. Execute, as we saw down the stretch last year. That was not something that is nearly a high enough level. Still to come on NFL.
Ongoing to see if there's some sort of resolution that can bring Aaron Rodgers back this year. I know a lot of his former teammates, friends, think that eventually he will be back. I think there are a lot of questions that still are left to be answered, and I don't know that Aaron Rodgers has made up his mind just yet about what he does and doesn't want to do. But clearly, the clock on Aaron Rodgers' future is running. It's hard to imagine him in Green Bay beyond this season, if he even plays there this season. But these are questions that will begin to unfold in the next week with the Packers scheduled to report to training camp 1 week from today.
Yeah, Shefty on the doorstep of training camp, and the biggest story of the offseason remains unresolved. He's with us for the entire show. We'll have more from Adam in just a moment. We're going to bring in Dan Orlovsky and Mina Kimes. And Dan, we'll start with you. What's your reaction to this development in the never-ending Aaron Rodgers saga?
The same I had when Shefty broke the news NFL draft week. Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to be in Green Bay. Now, I will say this. I got 4 kids field. My boys are older, and I tell my boys all the time, don't make people guess how you feel or what you want. Just tell them, because that makes it easiest. And what I want from Aaron and what I want from the Packers is to hear it from their mouths. I want Aaron to say, hey, I'm done. I'm out. And I know Shefty has stated that. But then I want the Packers to say and come out, we're not doing anything at all. Because at the end of the day, like for me, there's got to be a line of demarcation for both parties. Okay, this reminds me probably a lot of a divorce between a husband and a wife. Everybody's not going to get exactly what they want. But where is the point where both parties get something, right? Like Aaron's not going to get exactly what he wants, and the Packers aren't going to get exactly what they want. But where's the line where they each get something out of this situation? I would be shocked if Aaron Rodgers sat out this whole football season. I would be equally as shocked if Aaron Rodgers started 17-plus games for the Packers this year. I think their season is ruined no matter what when it comes to championships because of this situation. Because if he comes back, this isn't a good situation. This isn't a healthy situation. And obviously, if he's not there, this is a significantly less football team when it comes to their championship run.
Yeah, Dan, it's been 83 days since Adam Schefter broke that story. I went back and I counted 83 days. I sound like the old lady in Titanic. It's been 84 years. But that's how long it's been, and it feels longer because we have spent those 83 days speculating, trying to understand desperately what it is that Aaron Rodgers wants, why he's upset, what it would take to either